Good evening, race fans. It is time. We are back for some Track Stars TS3 touring cars racing here for round 5 for the New York Sprint. It's been a few weeks since we last saw the TS3 touring cars. They had their week off away from what was the TS2 and the main series at the Green Hell 125 and Green Hell 250. So that's been a long time coming for the TS3 boys, and also we had our break away last weekend. So all the boys are fresh up and ready to go. It's been a very long time since we've done some TS3 touring car racing here at Track Stars Racing Series. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am your host for the broadcast. It is Nick Batasso, myself. Unfortunately, I don't have my co-commentators in Ryan Palmer. He's actually gone to the Sydney Football Stadium where he's going to be watching the Women's World Cup final, as well as, unfortunately, with our series admin in Jarman Dalitz. He is away and he won't be able to join us this weekend. So we are all set to go. We are just waiting on one more driver in our TS3 touring car field. And then we will have ourselves a full grid here tonight, whilst we have 3 drivers competing in Split 2. Yes, 3 drivers in Split 2, with one of those drivers, whoever's victorious in Split 2, will have automatic qualification for round 6, which will be a very exciting event at Road Atlanta next time out. So where are we racing today, ladies and gentlemen? We are racing here at Watkins Glen, the short layout, this 3.9 kilometre circuit, inner short circuit with the inner loop chicane. So it's very much flat out. You're looking at 70-75% full throttle around this circuit, and overtaking is going to be very, very tricky around the circuit, especially as there are a lot of straights and a lot of fast flowing corners. So an entry into a corner and exit is going to be very crucial to get yourself a proper slipstream. But we are excited. It is a very fun circuit. I've done a few laps in the TS3 touring cars, and I'm gutted I'm not racing tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It's such great fun. As much as people want to run the Grand Prix circuit with the bootleg section, I think the short circuit for touring cars is a lot of fun. And we are very excited to get back into Track Stars touring car racing here for the TS3 and touring cars for round 5, which is the New York Sprint. I will let our lovely host, Richo Robinson, let him know that we are ready to go. All right, so there we go, giving them the official call, and we are ready to go around this 3.9 kilometer circuit. So Watkins Glen is a very, very famous track in New York, on the outskirts of New York. It's been the home of road racing in the USA, with crowds flocking in to see some high quality racing since the 1940s. Essentially all major roads, racing classes in North America have competed here one stage or another, from Formula One all the way through to Can-Am, and currently the NASCAR Cup Series. Known as the Glen, it has been owned by NASCAR themselves and hosts a number of Cup Series racing since 1986, except for 2020 when the pandemic happened around. So we've seen a lot of great races here in the real world, and we are very excited to have some on-track action in the virtual world here. As we are green flag for this qualifying session, a 10-minute session for the TS3 touring cars. Let's go on board with a couple of drivers, and hopefully the sound difference isn't too bad compared to my voice. So you do let me know in the comments below how the audio quality is. right, so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, the first of the drivers coming out onto the Track Stars Racing Series, a TS3 touring cars. The first drivers out on track, going to get themselves warmed up. You're looking at about a 1:02 lap time around here, the fastest lap time that we have seen in the practice sessions. We've also seen a couple of 1:01s from some of your top contenders, and those top contenders are essentially Mr. Tony Griffin here from WTC Racing, who had a fantastic last time out. Obviously not broadcasted on the Track Stars Racing Series YouTube channel, but it was hosted by Tyler Lansdale in Kaizen TY98. So we do thank you very much for his service for providing some TS3 broadcast. But Tony Griffin has been doing an amazing job. He clean swept the round, unfortunately, with his rival in Jeff Brun in the Car 18 MSR Steel City Lexus. He was looking to have a strong weekend and try and make it 7 wins on the trot. But unfortunately for him, he had a very torrid time at Brands Hatch, and he's looking like his first lap here is not looking to be a great lap, as he just ran wide on the inner loop chicane and picked himself up a half-second penalty. That won't burn straight away, so he's going to have to do another lap to burn that penalty off. As we look through to Tony Griffin, who's coming through to set the first flying lap here at Watkins Glen. We're already less than 8 minutes to go. It is a quick lap around here, so you'll be able to get multiple laps around. The first lap set benchmark times of 1:02.8 set by Tony Griffin for WTC Racing. We have Cohen Sharp with a 1:03. We have Stafford with a 1:03. And as we see the lap times falling through so far, the fastest man so far is an unknown here, ladies and gentlemen. He's making his debut for FR Racing. It is Van Hart for the car 35, I believe. Let me check his actual racing number. Car 23. I do apologise. So car 23 in Van Vaart is doing a fantastic job, and currently setting provisional pole position. It's just being held up a little bit by traffic from Smith from Black Rose Racing, so he just needs to space himself out just a little bit to be able to drop those lap times. Van Hart, I do apologise, not Vart. It's obviously through the microphone, it might sound a little bit different. Obviously with the Dutch name, it does become very, very tricky here, but obviously you can see there Jeff Brun has set his lap time, but unfortunately with that half-second penalty, it is not a representative lap time. We have Adam Walker come through so far with a 1:02.7, only 0.08 behind Van Hart, who's currently leading the way. The fastest Nissan so far, so this could potentially bring the Nissans back into the fold and back into play with the FR Racing driver currently leading the way, but Walker in second place, and in the slipstream of Stafford. He's got nowhere to go there. He's just relying on Stafford just to be as quick as him, but that becomes very tricky, ladies and gentlemen. So Tony Griffin is coming up towards turn 7 and then up in through to turn 8 of the last corner here at Watkins Glen. Whether he's getting himself some fast lap time, we'll find out very shortly. So he's come across the line. He doesn't improve his lap time. What about, let's look through to Jeff Brun. He's actually got provisional pole position by a 10th over Van Hart. So that's a great lap time there after what was a struggle streak for him after getting a couple of penalties next to his name. But he's just picked up another one, so 0.5 of a second there, unfortunately for Jeff Brun, but he's still sitting in provisional pole position with a 1:02.5. Van Hart still hasn't been able to prove his lap time there. It looks like he's just pulled away onto the side just to let Richard Robertson through, but he's still down in 15th place there. So the man that picked up a couple of podiums last time out at Brands Hatch is down in 15th place there, so not the start that he wants with penalties next to his name, unfortunately. So we're halfway into the session with Jeff Brun leading the way. We have Mark Hasseldine come through with a very handy lap time there with a 1:02.5. So he's only 0.06. So the lap times we are seeing around here is very close, ladies and gentlemen. The lap, because it is a very fast circuit, this 3.9 kilometer circuit. Like I said, you're only braking you're pretty much going full throttle for 75% of the lap here. The lap times do become pretty quick around this circuit. And essentially you are just trying to get the best flow through the corners and just trying to get that braking through the bus stop in the inner loop as late as you dare, and trying to get yourself hooked around into that long stretch of that right-hander. But let's go on board with the Nissan driver, the debutant in Van Aert, as he comes through to turn one. Really run the car wide as he can, but don't trigger a half-second penalty there, and then come back onto the circuit. Just clip the inside corners here of the apex, and then just rev the car out as soon as it goes flat, upshift into 6th gear. We're going to see Van Aert go through the inner loop for his 6th lap here. What's his lap time? He's 0.5 down, so he's struggling a little bit here. As we see Tony Griffin come up through the field there, but he's only sitting in P2. So Van Aert's got a little bit of work to do. He's just had to downshift there. That's not going to be helping his lap time at all. So I'm pretty sure he must be still warming up here, as he's still got plenty of time left to try and get him some good pace. But as we did see there as well, we did see Cohen Sharp in the It's Racing Car 31 come through with a 1 minute 2.7. So we've seen a couple of drivers here with the 1 minute 2s here. So we're seeing some great lap times here. We've just seen now James, who's currently sitting 4th in the championship, was in doubt for this race tonight, but he's just come through within the last minute to put in his attendance, and he's come through very nicely with a 1 minute, with a very handy 1 minute 2.8. And then the first driver in the 3s is car. Actually, I'll have to check through the number. Car 615 in Seca, the newest entry into Black Flag Racing. So Black Flag Racing are really trying to set their authority here in Track Stars Racing Series. We've seen a couple of drivers in TS3 coming through the ranks, and we're also going to see a couple of TS2 drivers come through the ranks as well. So Black Flag showing some intention, just like FR Racing are setting their intentions for some main series running in 2024. So we'll see as the months and days roll by on who will be the main series runners in 2024. But he's unfortunately just picked up a half-second penalty, has Van Aert, so his qualifying session is just going from bad to worse, unfortunately. So he's really struggling in the 23 Nissan. But Griffin, as we just saw, just come through with a 1 minute 2.5. Is he going quick? Is he able to go quicker with only 1.5 minutes to go as he comes through the line here? He sets himself in. Yes, he does. He's put 3/10 on Jeff Bruin. So Jeff has got some work to do, but he's just caught up in some traffic, unfortunately, with Bender in the way of the Lexus driver. So he's just really going to be struggling himself. He's just going to try and benefit from the slipstream and maybe try and put the car in the inside line and try and see if he can benefit from some sort of tow that Bender's able to give him. So we'll wait and see what happens in Jeff's lap here. So he's gone for the inside line. Will they be able to respect each other as they go through to the bus stop? They do. So Jeff coming through into the lead pack rather. But unfortunately, this doesn't look like it's going to be a representative lap time. So he's just going to back off a little bit, and he's got one more chance to try and put that car on provisional pole position. But what a clutch lap that was by Tony Griffin for WTC Racing, just trying to back up his form that he had at Brands Hatch a few weeks ago. So we see Hasseldean right behind there, hit the barriers, and that's going to be the end of his qualifying run, because that will compromise his entry into turn one. Unfortunately, he drops down to P4. So we see James come through up into P3. So it's going to be a 1-3 for WTC Racing unless he's able to improve his lap time. He's only got himself just about 10 seconds now to be able to cross the start finish line. He might be able to get it, you know, ladies and gentlemen. He might be able to come through to the start finish line. He's got himself 2 seconds, 1 second, and he just comes through. He's going to have one more lap here. So the first driver coming across the line, unfortunately for Van Aert, he's able to improve himself up into P2. So the last lap ditch for Van Aert into P2 for FR Racing. That is a great lap there. Let's wait and see what Jeff Bruin's going to be able to do in P3. Is he able to improve his lap time? He's not. He's a 10th down, unfortunately. So So he needs to come through and get this lap sorted. Needs to use a little bit of tow from Hasseldine up ahead. So can he get himself up onto the front row alongside Tony Griffin? Can he snatch pole position? No, he doesn't. He's only a 10th down on his fastest lap time. So he sticks into P3 so far. Tony Griffin with a 1 minute 2.2 is your current provisional pole sitter, unless there's other drivers coming through. We see Walker coming through. He's only able to get himself up into P6 as we look back through to James, who was the last driver to cross the start-finish line. Does he find some lap time? No, he doesn't, unfortunately. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. That is the end of this qualifying session, and it belongs to Tony Griffin in position 1. So great job there by the man from WTC Racing. And what a debut it is for Van Hart as well. What a great qualifying session it is for him. As we look down the field there, we can see a couple of big names there. Richard Robinson in 9th place. Steve Smith in Blue Bloss in 11th place. So that is a big shock to the system for Bluey in 11th place. And as well, Bendon. He's actually had a few great sessions as well for Black Flag Racing, carrying the banner for that team. So he's got a bit of work to do, has Bendon and some of the other guys behind. But what a great qualifying that was for Tony Griffin, putting 2/10 over the field and over Van Hart. And it's going to be a great duel between Lexus and Nissan. We'll wait and see what Jeff Brun can do in position 3. So it's going to be a very chaotic turn 1, ladies and gentlemen. But who will come through for the race victory here? 13 laps to determine your victor for race 1 here for the Track Stars TS3 touring cars for the New York Sprint in round 5. We're about to go green flag very shortly. So thank you for joining us in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. We're seeing a lot of positive comments coming through, and we are ready to go racing for race 1 here. I'm your commentator in Nick Patasso, all alone in the commentary box here as we're about to go green flag racing. It's Tony Griffin versus Van Hart. Who's going to get the line? Who's going to get the jump off the start? We have 5 lights and green flag racing. It is a solid start for Griffin, but look at Van Hart in the Nissan GTR trying to go for the inside line, but Tony Griffin does a fantastic job and blocks the inside line. Van Hart goes around the outside. Jeff Brun still holds on to P3, but as we look through, we see some carnage in the background there. Hasseldine, and as I see Thornley as well, got caught up in an incident there. A lot of cars caught up in what was a chaotic turn 1 there. Unfortunately, I won't be able to go through the replay, ladies and gentlemen. I don't have myself a keyboard, but that is what we did see there was a massive incident on lap 1, turn 1. Unfortunately, Robinson was a victim of that. Unfortunately, we can see Blue as well, and Smith was caught up in that. We did see there, and I think the biggest loser, unfortunately, is Hasseldine in 10th place. He was started in 5th, dropped down to 10th place, got caught up in all of that, and Thornley is outside the top 10 as well. But as we look back up towards the front, we can see some winners here. We can see some winners and losers here. So unfortunately for Hasseldine, biggest loser, unfortunately, we can see Rosewarne and Stafford has actually gained plenty of positions there, starting from last and second last in 7th and 8th. Liam's coming through for a move on Walker going into turn 1. Is he able to come through? He's very close. Stafford was almost there to pick up the pieces there, but unfortunately for him, he holds on to P7. But let's look back towards the front. It is Tony Griffin leading the way ahead of Van Hart. 0.4 between the 2 drivers. Jeff Brun still holding on to P3. So the man that was leading the way, who is leading the way in this championship, is sitting in P3. Unfortunately, had his streak of wins come to a halt, unfortunately, with Tony Griffin taking out the last 2 victories at Brands Hatch. And Jeff Brun is all sorts of under pressure now from James in 4th place, who was also sitting 4th place in the championship. So will he be able to make a move coming in through to turn 7. No, he doesn't. He thinks about it, but he doesn't stick the nose in, unfortunately. So Jeff Brun still holding on to 3rd place. We see James still holding on to 4th, Walker in 5th, and then we can see there Stafford is coming through into 6th place. As we see there, a bit of an incident between a couple of drivers there. We can see there Thornley getting on the chat there, apologising to Hasseldean. So he's lost a couple of positions there. He's got himself a half-second penalty as Hasseldean, unfortunately. So he's down to 10th place. He will lose that position to Smith if Smith is able to hold on to Hasseldean. As we can see a few spins there, we can see there Robinson caught up in another spin again, and Thornley as well. His race is just going from bad to worse. Is the car 90 driver, unfortunately, down into last place and really out of contention of trying to get himself back into the top 10. So unfortunately for him, he's struggled a lot. So another debutant as well in Seca in 14th place. Doesn't have the best run in car 615 for Black Flag Racing, but he's still in 14th. He's trying to get himself up towards the pointy end, and hopefully he'll be able to hope for a better race 2 for Seca. Robinson in 13th place. And unfortunately for him, like I said, his race has just gone from bad to worse, unfortunately for Robinson. Again, taken out on the 2nd lap there, so twice taken out and twice involved in an incident on turn 1 for Robinson. Back towards the front here, the battle pack is still heating between these two drivers, Lexus and Nissan driver. We are seeing quite a contender for what is going to be who is going to be victor for race 1 here for the New York Sprint. It is Griffin over Van Hart, over Brun, over James, over Walker, who's sitting inside the top 5. Outside the top 5, we have Stafford, we have Sharp, we have Rosewarne, we have Liam, and then there we go, we have Smith, who's just taken that 10th place off Hasseldean, who had to serve that half-second penalty. So we can have Smith inside the top 10, Hasseldean 11th, Bender 12th, Robinson 13th, Seca and Thornley, whose day is just going from bad to worse with a 1 second penalty there, looking like he cut the inner loop bus stop there. But as we go on board with Van Hart for this lap 5 of 13, let's just see where his gating time, where are the strengths and weaknesses in this Nissan GTR for FR Racing. Like he's able to gain a little bit on the slipstream. He's gaining, but it's going to have to brake very soon there. He's not going to be able to make a move there. It is very risky to make a lunge there, but he runs wide, unfortunately, so he's lost a lot of time as Van Hart, that dirty air effect has just kicked in for the Dutch driver in P2, and just loses a lot of time to Griffin, and that'll bring Brun a little bit closer towards Van Hart in 2nd place. But Van Hart, as we know, as we've seen through qualifying, how quick he can get back up to speed, and he's only just he's lost a lot of he lost about 7 tenths there as he went through the chicane there, but he's able to gain a couple tenths back, and he just runs wide in turn 1, unfortunately. So he's losing time to Tony Griffin, and that's bringing Jeff back into the hunt here. He's still sitting in P3. Don't get me wrong, this is going to be some great points here for Jeff Brun in 3rd place, and this will help him put some points on his championship. But with Griffin in 1st and Brun in 3rd, this will bring Griffin a lot closer towards the title hunt as the latter stages come by. We're only round 5, so still early stages, ladies and gentlemen, in this 13-round championship. It's a lot of racing to go here at Track Stars Racing Series. Jeff Brun is able to close up a little bit on Van Hart. So the battle pack between 1st and 3rd is 1.7 seconds, and he's just gone purple in the 2nd sector, has Jeff. Oh, looks like Van Hart just ran a little bit wide there. Has he picked up a penalty? No, he hasn't. So he's just gotten away with that, stayed within the track limits there. Unfortunately there for Jeff, he just ran a little bit wide on that final corner, turn 8. Just losing a little bit of time. You can just see the dirt, yeah, just really kicking in on that Lexus driver in 3rd place. As we look down the field, we can see a little bit of a battle pack brewing between 4th and 5th place, with Walker closing in a little bit. He's just gapped Stafford in 6th place, and he's got Cohen Sharp right behind him in 7th, but he's got a 1 second penalty due to cutting the chicane But Stafford's having a much better race here compared to the last few rounds that Stafford's really struggled. So since joining M&R Racing, he's just able to pull himself through, just get acquainted with the car from Motorsport Network Racing. And in car 77, he's doing car 77, yes. Almost got the numbers wrong there, but car 77 is doing a very good job from privateer to M&R, and just be able to get himself a good performance here, some good points and some good confidence for the driver in Stafford. Cohen Sharp is still holding on to 7th place after burning that 1 second penalty. We can see Smith has gone up into 8th place, so the last time we checked on him, he was down in 10th place, so he's made a couple of positions there, so very nicely done there for Smith for Black Flag Racing, for Black Rose Racing. I almost got the names wrong there, unfortunately. So Louis in 8th, we have Liam in 9th, his teammate up into 7th place. Hasseldine still holding on to 10th place. Rosewarne looks like he's dropped a couple of positions down in 11th place. So his teammate doing well in 6th place, and unfortunately for Matt Rosewarne, he's down in 11th. Robinson still holding on to 12th. Bendit, and we can see as well Sekar, Black Flag Racing, not having a great race 1 in 13th and 14th. And Thornley with another penalty next to his name in 15th and last place. On lap 9 of 13 here, ladies and gentlemen, so we've got 5 more laps to go until the end of this race. We've got Tony Griffin still leading the way there, a little bit conservative going through the chicane there, so that's compromised his entry and exit, and that's bringing Van Hart into the play here. He's gained so much time through the chicane, through the bus stop rather, has Van Hart, and he's actually closed up to 0.39 of a second there. So at the start of the lap he was 0.8 down, he's now up into 0.4 of a second there. He's closing, he's just trying to find his time. He just runs wide on the final corner, loses some time there, loses some traction over Tony Griffin. As we saw in the early practice sessions, both Griffin and Jeff Brunt were very close to each other trading lap times, but we haven't heard of Van Hart before. And the Flying Dutchman is coming through to P2. It's still in P2. He's setting the fastest lap time with a 1:02.425. So he's the quickest man, the fastest Nissan so far, the highest placed Nissan in P2. But can he make that a P1 and get the breakthrough that Nissan need in the TS3 touring cars? So far, Nissan actually haven't won a race in Track Stars TS3 touring cars. So will he be able to break the duck in this race or potentially the next race? We'll find out very shortly as we're about 3.5 laps to go. It is still Griffin over Van Hart, and Jeff Brunt's really closed up now. It's 1.5 between the top 3. So any mistake between those 3 drivers, between the top 2 drivers rather, Jeff is going to be able to capitalise on the mistakes there. Not far behind is James in 4th, Walker in 5th place. So the top 4 contenders in this championship are sitting in 4th place. Unfortunately for Robinson, he's down in 12th place. So he's sitting P5 in the championship. But the top 4 contenders in the championship are sitting inside the top 5, with Van Hart the odd one out, but putting on a marvellous display of speed and pressure on Griffin. And Griffin is so far doing a fantastic job withstanding the pressure from the FR racing driver in car 23. So we've got 2.5 laps to go here. Griffin still leads over Van Hart, but he's closing ever so slightly here as Van Hart. Can he pull the breakthrough? Can he put the pressure that he needs to put on Tony Griffin in first place? Will Van Hart be able to pull through and get victory on his debut? Reminding everyone, this is his debut race here at TS3 Touring Cars. Will be able to pull through and get victory? We'll find out very soon. We're about to cross the start-finish line for 2 more laps here, ladies and gentlemen. The gap between the top 3 is only 1.7 seconds, so Jeff Brunt's just lost a bit of time there on the last lap, and he's losing touching ground. But this is the battle pack we are looking for, and he's closed up massively has Van Haart. So Tony Griffin's is going to have to look to go defensive here going into the bus stop. So what will he do? Will he go left? Will he go right? He goes right, so he's going defensive. He's trying to defend from that position. Will Van Haart be able to go around the outside? No, he doesn't. It is a very risky move to go side by side there. But he's got a much better run through the bus stop. And he's still not able to get through Tony Griffin, so he's still putting the pressure on the Lexus drivers. The WTC Racing versus FR Racing. This is a brand new name of battle packs that we are hearing at Track Stars TS3 between WTC and FR Racing. MSR in Jeff Braun is still right behind there. It's less than a second between the top three, so he's caught up so much time. But we are on the final lap here, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tony Griffin looking at the rear bumper of the WTC Racing driver, and he's got two very angry drivers right behind them looking to take that P1 away as we stay on board with Tony Griffin through the rear bumper. He's got himself a buffer now, so 4/10 is the buffer that he needs to get through the bus stop without any threat of a move whatsoever, but he needs to be able to execute the bus stop a little bit cleanly there. He's taking a bit conservative there. We can see the rear view mirrors. There is the FR Racing driver. He needs to hold the inside line, and there is Jeff Braun right behind him, P3. Looks like Tony Griffin might just be able to hold on to victory here as we go through to the exterior shot. Tony Griffin versus Van Haart in the last couple of corners here. What can the Nissan driver do? He's gone for an ambitious move. Can he go for the inside move? He looks. He can't pull it through, but Tony Griffin has just got a compromised run. He's going defensive, and it is Tony Griffin taking the victory for race one here for the Track Stars Racing Series TS3 Touring Cars over Van Haart, over Jeff Braun, over James, and over Walker, the top five. Wow, what a first race that was for Tony Griffin, taking victory. That's 3 in a row for the man at WTC Racing, and what a drive that was for Van Haart in second place there. That is a quality drive by the man that's just signed for FR Racing. As we look down the field, we see Cohen Sharp up into P6. We see Stafford in 7th, Smith in 8th, Hasseldine up into 9th, and Liam in 10th. Rosewarne 11th, Bender 12th. We see Secker in 13th, Thornley 14th, and unfortunately for Robinson, looks like he had a last lap incident, or actually on lap 12, he had an incident there with a 1 minute 27 lap time, is 15th in last place, 46 seconds behind the race leader. But ladies and gentlemen, what a race that was. That is a race for the ages here at Track Stars Racing Series. Tony Griffin pulls off a miraculous victory, a fantastic victory here tonight for race one. But he's got one more race to go, ladies and gentlemen. Can he withstand the pressure? Can he get himself up into the victory lane for the second time in a row tonight? Or will we see Van Haart come through and pull the victory off for Nissan for the first time here in 2023 touring car racing? We'll find out very shortly, but as we go through the results one more time, it is Tony Griffin taking the victory with Van Haart in second place. Jeff Braun rounds up the podium, 1.2 behind the leader. That is some very close racing between those drivers there. What a great race that was, ladies and gentlemen. And only separated by 0.163 between first and second. Wow, that was close. So as we take a quick break here, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back very shortly for race 2 of the TS3 Touring Cars, so round 5 for the New York Sprint. We'll be back with you guys very shortly, so stick around, grab a drink, grab some food, grab some popcorn, might I add you, because race 2 is going to be very spicy. So stick around, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with you very shortly. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go for a bit of a hot lap here in the Lexus SC4V that took victory in race 1 of the TS3 touring cars, and we're going to get an insight of what our drivers in the TS3 touring cars are dealing with around this 3.9 km circuit. As I said, you're looking at about 75% of the lap full throttle here. The only major braking zones is this one, the bus stop. It is very tricky to negotiate, and you really don't want to run too wide, as you are really starting to struggle with loss of tyre grip, and you just steer wide onto the grass. And the last corner there, the long right-hander, run that car too wide and you lose the apex. That is you, game over, and your competitor behind will take that inside line. Let's go for a bit of a hot lap here for what is a fantastic circuit. That is Watkins Glen, the short layout of the 3.9 km circuit. That is a lap of Watkins Glen. 1 minute 2.5, not far off from the fastest lap here. That was set by Van Hart, a 1 minute 2.425 in the Nissan GTR, mind you. So that is some very positive signs for the Nissan to basically have some pace around this circuit. So it's really, really good to see that Nissan really right up the pecking order there, and in the hands of Van Hart. What a race that was for the man that is a Dutchman. So currently he will be in P2 for this race, right behind Griffin. Jeff Brun is going to be lurking behind, just like he did in the first race. He said to me in the background there, he's going to find it very, very tricky to get through the top two. But all it takes, ladies and gentlemen, it just takes one little slip up, one mistake through the bus stop, one mistake on the long right-hander. That's all it takes. 1/2 second penalty is all it takes. Any sort of mistake that a driver makes tonight, as we saw in the opening lap on lap 1. One mistake and you are well down the order there. There is no hope whatsoever to claw yourself through the field. Thank you, Robbo. He's asking me if I'm racing there, cheeky bugger. Saying thank you very much for that, Robbo. So I'll give him the heads up. Should have been racing a couple of minutes ago, but that's okay. We are going to be a little bit behind for the TS2 coverage and for the TS2 lobby, but we have some exciting racing here for TS3 in the top split. That is going to be a battle between Tony Griffin, Van Hart, Jeff Brun, even James and Walker right behind in 4th and 5th place. What can those guys do in the other Lexus? So it's a Lexus fest inside the top 5 with the fastest Nissan challenging for victory. That is going to be here for race 2, the final race here for the TS3 touring cars, as we look to go on board with our drivers here. As we can see a couple of little, we can see there's a couple of camera glitches that we have in here, but nonetheless, it is race 2. 5 lights are on, and we are green flag racing for the last time here. It is a much better launch there for Van Hart. He's got himself right up towards the pecking order. Unfortunately, there we can see a driver in the background there. It is Van Hart leading the way into turn 1. It is for the FR racing team. We can see there Jeff Brun's lost the position to James. He's down into 4th place there. He's gone back up into 3rd. They're going to go side by side up towards the hill, nearly grazing the wall there. Are the 2 drivers in 3rd and 4th. Let's go on board with Jeff Brun. He's got up into P3. Will he give way? Will they go side by side? They do go side by side, but Jeff Brun gets the arms out, gets the elbows out, and he's up into P3. What a great move that was for Jeff Brun. Held his own, and he's up into P3. As we look down towards the back of the field there, unfortunately, we can see there Seca really having a bad time. We did see him facing the wrong direction on the start finish line, so that's him down to 15th place. We can see there as well, Cohen Sharp has really struggled on the opening lap there, so he's down to 14th place after finishing P6. We can see Rosewarne go really wide on the last couple of corners there. He drops down to 14th place there. Whether he got a helping hand, we're not so sure. We'll find out in the post-race replay. But we can see there Cohen Sharp from 6th to 13th. That is not the start that he wanted in the It's Racing garage for car 31. Robinson's gone up into 12th. Thornley's made a few positions from last place in 11th place. But we can see there are a couple of drivers as well. Walker's down the order there in 9th place after finishing P5 in race 1. So he's well down the order in 9th. Hasseldean's made a couple of positions. Stafford again is making a few positions. And the biggest winner so far is Bender for Black Flag Racing inside the top 5. Came from well outside the top 10. I believe he finished in 12th place, and he's up into P5. Wow, what an opening lap that was for the man from Black Flag Racing. Take a bow, Bender. That is the biggest mover of the opening lap there. And we can see there Smith really applying the pressure now. We can see Stafford looks like he just gave Bluey a bit of a push there. He just takes the position away from the Lexus driver. So Stafford into 6th, Smith down to 7th place. As we can see there, it is really pressurising there. And Smith goes for a nice move on Stafford, just escorts him a bit wide, saying, you push me off the track, I'll do the same to you. And he drops well down the order. Stafford in P9 after being up into P6 earlier. So he's got a lot of work to do. Both Black Rose Racing drivers have got a work to do. 6th and 8th position for the drivers there. Bit of contact made, and it's a bit of a domino effect for the drivers behind there. Walker looks like he's made a few mistakes, and we are seeing a lot of carnage as the couple of drivers made a few mistakes going through the bus stop there. A couple of drivers braking at the wrong time, really causing a cluster into the bus stop, unfortunately, through the inner loop. And drivers really got caught up there, Walker especially, and a few other drivers as well there. So 21 seconds is the gap between 1st and 15th place, which is being led by Van Hart, who is currently sitting P1 and is already gapped Tony Griffin. 2.3 seconds for the Nissan driver. Wow, what a first couple of laps it is for the man in the Nissan. He's already set himself a 1 minute 2.2. So really smashed his fastest lap by well over 2/10 has Van Hart, and this is a great performance by the debuting driver in the Nissan GTR. Tony Griffin right behind in P2. Jeff Brun holding on to 3rd. And we can see as well, James still holding on to P4, so a double P4 for him would be some great points for his championship. We can see behind there, Bender just had to serve a penalty. He's dropped down to P6. Smith is up into P5 now. I see some drivers right behind, really being escorted wide there through the background. Unfortunately, we can see Walker's now up into P8. We can see Robinson now back up into P9. So this is the first time we've seen Robinson inside the top 10. See there a couple of moves there we saw there by Thornley. Looks like he made a little bit of a push to pass move on Stafford. Really just stuck the nose into turn 1. He got it done nicely, but he's got himself a 1 second penalty, and that's not what he needs. We can see Cohen Sharp's gone through to P9 as we go on board with the man from It's Racing. We look to the rear bumper. Robinson looking to try and take back P9. Is unable to do it, unfortunately. And as the driver's really struggling to get the inner loop bus stop to their liking. Robinson just runs wide on the right hand and picks up a couple of cones there. Not what you want to say to a man that lives in the USA on a late night at 3 o'clock in the morning. So as you see there, Robinson just holds on to P10 after running over a couple of barriers, and still holds on to P10. As we can see there, Stafford back up into P11, as we saw Thornley pick up that 1 second penalty and drops well down to 13th place there. And we can see there Secker is still in 15th place there, but he's not far behind, 7.4 behind Rosewarne. And after a couple of incidents that we've seen in the last couple of laps there, he might be able to get himself up back into the higher part of the top of the bottom 10. So we'll wait and see on his progress. But back up towards the front there, we can see there Van Hart's pick up a 1 second penalty there, cutting the chicane, unfortunately, and he's going to lose that 2.8 gap that he had over Tony Griffin. That's dropped down massively, 1.3, 1.2. Is he going to get to 1.1? No, it doesn't. So he's lost a lot of time there. So that was well over a second. That was like a 1.5 second penalty it was there for Van Hart. So very interesting penalties there as he runs wide into turn 1. So really struggling with grip after serving that penalty. Looks like Tony Griffin unfortunately made the same mistake as well, just running a bit wide into turn 1. Jeff Brunn still holding on to 3rd place. James still holding on to P4. So the top 4 still as they are, just like we saw in race 1 with the position change between Van Hart and Griffin. Van Hart leading, and the first time that Nissan's actually leading the race and potentially could be taking victory as we're about to cross the halfway mark here of race distance. It is Van Hart over Griffin, over Brunn, over James, over Smith inside the top 5. So as we look around to the car here, we can see the FR racing car very well presented here by FR. They have such a great livery designer, and they literally do such great, awesome liveries in FR racing. So if this is a team that's going to be potentially putting their name up in the air, with their hands up in the air for a potential main series run in 2024, and they bring out liveries like this, sign me up, because my goodness, the liveries they put out are absolutely amazing. As we can see there, Van Hart still leading the way, 1.6 over Tony Griffin, who's coming all sorts of under pressure now from Jeff Brunn. So between the man that won race 1, he's now coming under pressure for the man that picked up P3 in the last race. Jeff Brunn still holding on to P3, James still holding on to P4, so they'll still stay in their positions at the end of this race if they're able to hold on to P3 and P4 respectively. So with Van Hart in first and Tony Griffin in second, they'll be equal on points there. But with Tony Griffin taking out pole position, that'll give him the overall round victory if he's able to hold on to P2, and if Jeff Brunn is not able to make any moves, and the man in car 62. So let's look down the order. Bendit still holding on to P6 after a great start from the back of the pack into P6. So that's the biggest mover so far, movers and shakers of this race 2. Hasseldine in P7 with a 0.5 second penalty there. Walker all over the back of Hasseldine there as we go on board with Walker. He's going to go side by side with Hasseldine. Will they go side by side into the chicane here? Walker does the smart thing and pulls out of it, because he knows Hasseldine has to serve a 0.5 second penalty, so he's just going to wait patiently as they go through towards the exit of the long right-hander. Hasseldine will stay left. We'll see Walker go right, and there he goes. Takes P7, does Adam Walker in 7th place, who I might mention, ladies and gentlemen, it's actually his birthday today. So car 17, Adam Walker, having a good run on his birthday. So P5 in the race, and currently looks like to be sitting in P7. So big happy birthday for the man in car 17 and Adam Walker. So hopefully having a great day, hopefully had a great weekend. And so far, having a great run in race 2 after what was a bit of a bad start for the man in car 17, but now back up into P7, and we'll look to put some sort of pressure on Bender before the race concludes tonight. So we can see there the position changes are still happening between Robinson and Cohen Sharp. Robbo Robinson in 9th place, Sharp in 10th. They're still trading positions between these two. We don't know where they're going to finish at the end of it. Robinson's having a great race 2, a much better race 2, not involved in any incidents. A clean race for him, and he's inside the top 10. That's all he needs, and hopefully that'll be enough for him to keep P5 in this championship as they go into round 6 at Road Atlanta next week. See as we go on board with Sharp. Is he able to make a move on Robinson into turn 1? He brakes early, runs a bit wide on the exit of turn 1 there, giving Robinson a little bit more of that advantage that he needs to pull away from car 31. So as we look down the order there, as we can see there, as I did predict, Seca is right in the clutches of Rosewarne. Looks like Rosewarne just had a bad few couple laps there. His fastest being a 1 minute 3.9. But Seca is well quicker than the M&R driver, still getting into those low 1 minute 3s and then setting himself up into 1 minute 2 on lap 9. So right up there to try and get himself up into 14th place. It'll be a good recovery drive for Seca for Black Flag Racing. But back towards the front on lap 12 or 13. We still cannot keep our eyes off this battle pack. The gap is still there, the 1.6, 1.7 second barrier after Van Hart served that penalty. We can see there Griffin still holding on to P2, Jeff Braun still holding on to P3. James is just a little bit further back behind the pack now. He set his personal best there with a 1 minute 2.7, but it's still not enough to close up towards the top 3, and he's just going to have to settle for P4 tonight for race 2, so a P4 overall, and that'll give him a great confidence boost for the next round at Road Atlanta. Blue loss in Smith holding on to P5 with his teammate in P7, who's right on the back of Bendit now, so I called it on the last lap. Walker is not going to give up, and he's going to put a fight to try and get that P6 away from Bendit. Haseldine in the background serving a penalty. Does he lose the position to Robinson? He doesn't, but Robinson's really closed up now. He's going to be able to put some pressure on the privateer driver in car 16. As we go back towards the battle pack between Walker and Bendit. Can Walker find a way through on the last lap and get P6 and get Black Rose Racing up into a 5th and 6th for round 2, or for race 2 rather. We'll find out very shortly. He's got a great run on the exit of turn 1. He really needs to tuck into that slipstream and really try and find a move through the bus stop if he can. Really put some pressure on Bendit as they come through the bus stop for the final time. Looks like Bennett's able to hold on nicely there, and he's done himself a great job. It looks like he's just been able to hold on, runs a bit wide. Walker's got a bit more momentum there, but we'll wait and see what the battle pack is. But back up the front for the first time, we're going to see a Nissan Victor here at Track Stars TS3, and it's going to go towards Van Hart for FR Racing, taking the victory for Nissan for the first time in Track Stars TS3. What a victory that is for the FR Racing driver, taking out the P1, the Flying Dutchman in P1. Tony Griffin will take out P2, but the overall round victory after that pole position and victory in race 1. Jeff Brun holds on to P3. What a great race that is for him. Good, consistent racing for him, and still putting on points over Tony Griffin. Tony Griffin would have closed the gap a little bit, but it's not enough to really make an impact. But what a race that was for the man from FR Racing, Van Hart, the Flying Dutchman, the first Nissan to take victory in Track Stars TS3. What a great race that was for the man in car 23. Absolutely amazing race here, ladies and gentlemen. We have seen some 2 quality races in Track Stars TS3 for round 5 for the New York Sprint. Watkins Glen always provides the goods here. Track Stars Racing Series. A few incidents, a little bit of carnage there on the opening lap for a couple of drivers. So we might see a few incident reports there. Might be seeing a few investigations for a couple of drivers. But nonetheless, Tony Griffin, Van Hart, your victors tonight in race 1 and race 2. The overall victory goes to Tony Griffin. So big congratulations to WTC Racing for taking out first place overall. Jeff Brun will hold on to P3. James will hold on to P4. And we can see there, unfortunately, there Walker did not make the move on Bendit, and he holds on to P7. Richard Robinson, a much better run for him in 9th place. Cohen Sharp rounds up the top 10. Stafford in 11th. Thornley in 12th. Liam 13th. Rosewarne 14th. And unfortunately for Secker, who was facing the wrong way on the opening lap, not even before the race start, it was facing the wrong way and is down in 15th place, 31 seconds behind the race leader. So a much faster race for a much closer race. It is between the top 15 drivers. So before we end the broadcast, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to give out a special mention for driver of the day here, and I was going to give it to our overall victor, but I'm just going to have to give it to that flying Dutchman, Van Hart, in car 23, the first driver in TS3 to take victory in the Nissan. It's been a Lexus affair in Track Stars TS3 touring cars, but he's the first man to finally break the hoodoo and get Nissan their first victory in TS3 touring cars. What a great debut it is for the Dutchmen, for FR Racing, who are looking to etch their names in Track Stars as a potential main series team. We'll find out very soon. We'll find out later on in the year who will take that main series team. Will we see FR Racing with their huge presence in TS3, TS2 make their name, put a name forward? We'll find out in the late seasons of 2023. But that is it for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for giving us your time to bring you some TS3 touring car action for round 5 for the New York Sprint. On behalf of myself, Nick Patasso, thank you so much for all the comments that we're seeing in the paddock and in the grandstand. Thank you so much for all the support that you give us at Track Stars Racing Series. What an awesome 2 races we've had. I can't wait to see what we've got in store for TS2 in an hour's time. So join me for TS2 racing in an hour's time. But for now, we will see the TS3 boys next weekend at Road Atlanta, and you'll be hearing from me in an hour's time. So thank you so much, and we'll see you guys very soon.